What's going on, everybody? Just Sunday live stream here. I titled it "Boxing: The Hispanic Perspective." Mexicans, Latinos, Puerto Ricanos, Colombians, well, whatever, Honduran, like you name it. We're here to talk, man. Just. I have no idea where this is gonna go. We're just gonna kind of open it up a little bit and just go from there. And we're just gonna dive in. We're gonna go all the way to the top. You guys seen those? Like when you go all the way to the top to dive in, that's what we're doing, man. We're looking out down at that pool. It's a small ass pool, but we're gonna jump down there. That's what we're going to do. Fistiana in the chat, how are you doing? And Zeno in the chat as well. I do want to give a disclaimer here that this is not like a structured show or anything like that. Okay. This is, a free speech zone. People are going to say what they want. And that is that. Now, it may get a little uncomfortable, but it is what it is. These are just conversations that need to be had. So in order for things to get better, so how you doing, guys? What's up, No Paul?
What up? What up? I'm right here. Just
the Wi-Fi is good today, huh?
Yeah, I ran over to Starbucks, and it works really good for some reason over here.
He's at Starbucks, bro. Okay, it's like fuck Taco Bell. This place ain't doing shit for me right now.
Yeah, I had to move up a little, man. You know what I mean?
Did you have to buy a latte
yeah, I actually bought one of them cold drinks, man. And I told the lady, hey, well, my name's No Paul. Make sure you write it on there. And it came with a cool little tag.
Yeah. Like, because if you don't buy the drink, they kick you out. Like, you know what I mean? Ain't no free Wi-Fi. But what you paid for that drink, you could have just paid for the Wi-Fi in your house.
No, that's true. That's true.
What's going on, Chicano?
What's happening, man? Feeling good, ready to talk some boxing or, racial stuff within boxing, anything, man. There's a lot of good subjects we could touch on today.
Yeah, right. Hey, I did a video yesterday, so to just kind of start with that. Like, I did a lot of talking, so I want to let you guys do a little bit of talking. Well, what you agree with, disagree with, etc. We can just kind of go from there. Let's start with Chicano.
I agree with a lot of the stuff that you were saying. I think that we all have different perspectives and we all come from different places, and coming from like a Chicano perspective myself and, things that I've seen here on YouTube, I do think it's kind of come to a fever pitch, and I don't really know why it's happened at this time. It was kind of like this running joke that the only thing that's happened between this week and the last couple of weeks is that Canelo fought, and for some reason this has just kind of brought some things out, Canelo fought a British dude, but we're talking about, I don't know, I guess it kind of went to like Charlo, and then from Charlo to like people going back and forth to that to kind of it's all over the place, dude. So like I'm still developing my own personal thoughts on it, but I'd have to say that I think you're right, man. Like, we have to share our own perspectives on these things because nobody else will. There's actually a couple people that I've heard say some really good things. I've heard Raider go out there, Black and Brown, LT, and I share their perspective as well. Like, I think that sometimes, there's been multiple times where I've personally seen Mexicans and Hispanics more broadly get blamed for not siding with African-American issues as much directly to our face. And there was also a previous panel where myself, No Paul, and G-Funk, shout out to G-Funk, we had a discussion on whether it was offensive for Black fighters to wear our colors and the sombrero when they come in, and if that was to stoke racial tension. And before we could even start talking, we had a bunch of our friends who come in here and always kick it with us, telling us like, oh, shaking my head, you guys, like, hey, that's not a big deal. Like, we're doing it to, they were trying to tell us how we should feel about it. And then we also had another panelist, Reggie Owen, somebody who, I don't really see him around, but, he used to be cool with us, coming here and start actively questioning us, wanting us to pull up receipts. So, well, you weren't keeping the same energy here. Let me see this. Let me see that, and I've heard some other things too, and this was before this most recent tension. And it's like, I just wish we could all backtrack. Like, everything was cool before. And I mean, I don't have an issue with anybody. A lot of people don't, but I do think that there are some people who speak like authorities on the matter, but are also fanning the racial flames at the same time. So, I mean, those are my initial thoughts on things.
Right, hear you. How are you feeling right now? And what you think of that video? Just to start out, it doesn't have to be about my video, just in general. Like, what are you thinking right now, No Paul?
Oh, that video was great, man. As always, it was a really good video. But what I wanted to add to that is, we get it from all sides as Latinos. We get a lot of criticism, whether it's in boxing, other stuff like that, whether it's the people trying to say that we're tribalistic for trying to stick together, and if you go on YouTube, most of our channels, we're really a minority, and it's not like we don't really back each other up either. And it's like, when we do back each other up, people trying to make us feel guilty for that, almost like we should be shamed. And they try to hit us with, oh, you guys are tribalistic, stuff like that. First of all, I don't view the Latino culture as a culture that's in power of anything. We don't even have a political voice in this country. So, we shouldn't, and none of us should feel shamed because we're trying to stick together and get somewhere. We shouldn't feel like, we shouldn't get shamed into thinking, oh, we're all of a sudden we're racist now. No, we're not in any kind of position to feel racist for anything that we've done. And the fact that we're sticking together, you guys shouldn't feel bad about it, man. What you should kind of feel bad about is if you're trying to alienate another culture from coming on our stream. No, we're not trying to do that. Everybody's welcomed here, but we are going to support our own people. And when we gotta, criticize our own people, we're going to do that too. We're not going to be like other channels that just always making up lies for their fighters, stuff like that. And that's basically how I feel about that.
Yeah, I mean, look, here's what I could say, and I think in order for us to have dialogue and understanding, right, the first thing that needs to happen is that everyone needs to listen to everybody, right? And in order to listen to Hispanics, Latinos, you need to allow us to tell you how it is with us. You know what I mean? You need to allow us to tell you what it is to be us. Like, we cannot be told what that is, and I feel like that happens a lot, Now back to the example that, that Chicano used, and that was in G-Funk's channel. Okay, we were talking about, Tank Davis coming out with a sombrero and the Mexican colors. I still feel the same way now as I did, before. I said, you know what, I don't see it. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. But I understand, okay, that like for people to tell me that, no, it's because we're playing homage to you. That's not the way we feel, though. Like, that's not like telling us that's what it is. It's one thing, but can you at least listen to us when we tell you that's definitely not what it is? And we know that's not what it is, like at the end of the day. And different Hispanics are going to feel, different Mexicans, that is, when it comes to that, are going to feel differently when it comes to that, right? And I cannot tell if there's a Mexican out there that feels insulted by that, I'm not going to tell them, oh, come on, stop being insulted by it. I can't do that. That's how they genuinely feel. We need to listen to people when they say certain things, okay? That is absolutely necessary. Now the reason, and I know that, and I have, let me just say this, man, I have beef with nobody. Okay, I'm cool with everybody. I'm a believer in freedom of speech, and I think everyone should be able to express themselves. But we're going to have an honest conversation, and we have to have an honest conversation. Chicano brought up, when some of our, people that watch us a lot and friends of ours that came on here, to support our boxing content, they had an issue with that video and try to tell us what it's all about when that's our colors, that's our culture. How about we tell you how we feel about it? That's number one. And that should be a conversation we should be able to have without people trying to interfere. Maybe you should listen to what we have to say. That's very, very important. And the example that, Reggie was saying, in fairness, was saying that, why didn't you bring this up when Tyson Fury, put the Mexican cutters and all that? And I immediately had the receipts ready. I had the link ready, and I showed them that I did speak out about it. And I was never upset about it, but I did call out, Tyson Fury when he did that, just like Andy Ruiz did, for example, right? So that is the thing. It's just about taking a moment and having those conversations and listening to what we need to say. That's all, So that's all I have to say about that at the moment. But
can I share my thoughts on that real quick? As far as sorry about that, Chicano. As far as the wearing the Mexican colors and all that, for people to say that they're playing homage to us or they're doing that a sign of respect, come on, man, show me that kind of stuff when it doesn't have to do with you making money. Do it when it's not a conflict of interest. Because as far as that's concerned, right there, if you want to do that, you can do it on your own time and show us. Go ahead and show us how much money you're donating to some kind of Latino cause, or show us that you went and adopted some kind of Latino from South America or something like that. That would be a good way to show us. Don't do it when it's beneficial because you want to act like some of that pay-per-view was coming. Like, don't do it when it's like that, because like I said, it's a total conflict of interest, and it's not a good excuse for anybody.
Look, well, before I go, I know Chicano had something to say. Go ahead, Chicano.
No, man, I just totally agree. And just to add to that, when Reggie was asking us about keeping the same energy with Tyson Fury, it's like you said, D-Style, like, to me, they're not even close to the same thing. Like, it wasn't paying homage either way, and we don't buy that. I think that's a poor argument to begin with. But when Tyson Fury was trying it, it was for Cinco de Mayo weekend, and he was paying homage. Like, when he does it like that, that's one thing. When Tank Davis does it because, his manager is Floyd Mayweather, who, is related to Roger Mayweather, who started to provoke racial tension, because that's what it did. And yes, it does have a rich place in boxing lore. But for us to ask, like, is it racist? We should be allowed to have that conversation. And all I can say is, like, I've never seen any Mexicans kind of go over to any of our friends, like perhaps like an LDBC channel or any our Punch. Like, we talk to a lot of people out there, dude. Like, we're not isolated. Everybody's welcome to come here. Like, if you ever notice, like, when D-Style's on and he's talking about Canelo, a flood of people feel like they have the right to just come on in here and just start talking about Canelo. He's this, he's that, he's this. And, No Paul and myself and 92 AKU, we have a good fun with them, and we like to talk a little bit of shit back. But you guys are welcome to come here. We don't sit there and go like, what's wrong with you? This and this. But I mean, if we took our energy to one of your guys' channels and just started talking shit about your fighters who have all done much, much less, I don't think we'd be welcomed there. I mean, honestly, and to me, it would be rude. But, I'm just trying to say, like, in general, next year, like, we should think about keeping the same energy everywhere, because if everybody was consistent, we wouldn't be dealing with a lot of this crap.
Absolutely. I do agree with that. Look, like, and I almost feel like it's like, hey, look, people sometimes jump in the middle of a point I'm making or something I'm saying about Canelo, and they immediately go to the jugular and they say, oh, no, he's a Canelo fanboy channel. That's what he is. This channel is all, and I can ask them right now. Look, they're right here. Chicano Prophet, is D-Style Boxing your idea of a Canelo propaganda channel?
No, not at all. But we keep it real here. We talk boxing and we welcome different sides of opinions. So you do speak the truth when it's warranted. So that's why when some people come in here and just naturally hate on Canelo, they see you saying something like, "Hey, Canelo's done better than all these people." So let's keep the same energy. And all of a sudden, no, this is a fanboy channel. Like, you guys obviously haven't been listening to D-Style for too long.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you just have to sit down and listen to what I need to say, overall, because I have had criticisms. And in the future, if Canelo does something that warrants criticism, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to criticize him, because nobody is above criticism. That's just the truth, right? But what I'm not going to do is make up narratives about Canelo, okay, and go overboard and act with this bullshit that I've been seeing. All right. So just to give you some examples, Canelo fights Callum Smith, a world champion, okay, in a fight that he literally set up last minute because he just got out of his contract with DAZN. He tried to make the Caleb Plant fight first. Charlo just fought less than 2 months before Canelo had to announce a fight. They just finished accusing Canelo of fighting Kovalev a little too soon. But then he's getting accused of ducking Charlo right off the bat. That is insane. During video, look, Canelo, he's going to come back and fight Callum Smith. He's ducking Charlo. Like, that is ridiculous. How can anybody not see how ridiculous that is? That is insane. I'm sorry. Like there's criticisms, and then there's like over the top bullshit where it's obvious you just want to have a narrative against Canelo, right? Like that's what that is. Because the name Canelo is going to get you more views. Attaching Charlo's name to Canelo is going to get him more views than just talking about, Charlo versus, Dennis Hogan or Derenchenko. You have to connect Canelo's name to it. That's cool. In fact, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with saying, I want to see the Charlo Canelo fight. That's cool. Push for that fight. Say you want it. There's nothing wrong with that. A lot of people want that fight. But how can you possibly not see that he just got out of the litigation with the Zone and fought a champion last minute like that, and you give him no credit for it? And then I got to be hearing about it. He's a fraud. He's a disgrace. He's bad for boxing. Who in their right mind believes Canelo's bad for boxing? You have to be out of your mind to have that opinion. You have to be crazy. If anything, you wanted to fight the guy you like because it would be a big fight. You want that W for your guy over Canelo, right? Isn't that like a big deal for the fighter you like? Wouldn't that be a big deal for Charlo to have a W over Canelo? So let's stop acting like this guy is like bad for the sport. He's a disgrace. He doesn't fight anybody. The way it works in this world, okay? You want to talk, Canelo doesn't do this, he doesn't do that. Okay. If there's somebody at a job, right, and you want to say he's horrible at his job. Oh, this guy's horrible. His production's horrible. He doesn't do it good. I don't like. He's horrible. Fire him, right? And let's say I'm the manager. You tell me, you got to fire that guy. He sucks. He's a disgrace. He doesn't do the job right. Blah, 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 right? And then I pull up the file and I pull up the numbers and the metrics and I show you this guy's doing better than everybody else. He's doing better than everybody. He's doing better than the guy you like. Larry over there that you keep telling me should get the promotion. He's doing better than Larry over there. So why should I fire this guy? Oh, it's because, he doesn't acknowledge Larry when he shows up to work. So what? Oh, it's because he's not. He's only doing 15 sales an hour. I would love if he did 20. Okay, Larry's only doing 2 sales an hour. I'm not going to fire the dude with the most production. So it's the same in boxing. Boxing is your occupation. If Canelo's resume sucks, show me somebody that's better. Give me an example. Somebody has a better resume, or you got nothing to say.
Right, man. It's getting bad. And I hear a lot of things too that have pissed me off, and some other people too. Like I've heard channels that I respect, and I also respect their knowledge. And after the Smith fight, it's the second time in a row I've heard the allegation that the fight was fixed. That somehow, on top of all these other things that Canelo's always guilty of, what happened in the ring was that, Callum Smith didn't go there to fight. And it was another time where, Canelo's fighters, something about when they face Canelo, just something about it is when, they just don't fight. They just don't put it all on the line, and it's like, well, you could look at that fight and realize that, they were soundly defeated anyways. Like for you to allege this, like, what's your proof, and you go out there with this, to me, it's propaganda or you're biased or something, but, it kind of takes away from that credibility. And like, we don't go over to like other fighters and say, oh, this fight was fixed. That fight was fixed. I mean, you saw that right away with the Jermell Charlo fight. When he fought, and some people thought that punch was a little funny. Some people had said, oh yeah, that's a little strange, but we didn't go off the cuff going like, oh, well, we're going to keep the same energy and say that your fight was fixed. There's a lot of examples like that, man, where it's like you could see the narratives change over time. Another thing that's pissed me off too, and this is something that I've covered on HCP Uncensored, is for a long time, these same people that these are the same type of people that alleged that the last 2 fights were fixed. Okay, these same people used to say, oh, well, Canelo, he only fights old fighters and non-black fighters, right? But over time, I've systematically shown you how Jermall Charlo is more guilty of both of those. He fights older fighters statistically, and statistically have accomplished way, way less. He's fought better black fighters than Jermall Charlo. So now that's gone away. So now it's, Canelo only fights flat-footed European fighters. And that's the new thing, dude. And it's like, I guess I'm going there and I'm listening to it. But to me, I'm like, well, if you want to be taken seriously and actually like come on other channels, like why are people like kind of going into their little cocoons or their own little pockets of places? Like, you know, try bringing that somewhere else where people can have a conversation with you, or let's all be friendly. Like, you know, this doesn't need to be tense. You know, we can just speak objectively. Like, you know, I got a lot of nice things to say about a lot of good fighters, and I hope you guys do too. Like, there shouldn't be like too much race involved, in my opinion.
I don't think that's necessary either, you know, but it is what it is. Go ahead, no, Paul.
Yeah, and you know, as far as, let's just keep it real with the Charlo thing. As far as the Charlo argument, it's been it's been debunked from every single angle that you can think about it. And every angle at this point makes no sense whatsoever. So, you know, it's gotten to the point where when they just bring up that name, you know, I was like that about 2 years ago already, you know, when they were bringing up that name. Maybe I'm exaggerating a little, maybe about a year and a half, but they bring up that name and I'm like, oh man, are you kidding me? You know what I mean? Because when you look on the other side, I mean, you look at their resume, the dude's literally done nothing to deserve the fight. Even right now, he's 31 years old, and even at this stage, he hasn't even done as much as Canelo did at 154 to deserve the Mayweather fight. You know what I mean? Because the resumes are about, you know what I mean? They're kind of even at that point. Canelo was about 22 or something like that, and Charlo's 31, and you know, they're kind of even. But that's a straight up, you know, that's a lame ass thing to have to have for Charlo to look at things that way, or for people to have to look at things like that. You're actually comparing a 22-year-old Canelo with a 31-year-old Charlo, who basically has a protection program from his fans, because nothing he does, you know, they don't raise their eyebrow about nothing he does or what he hasn't done. You know what I mean? They don't care, but they give him hella support, and it's like Canelo has to fight him. And it's like, well, you know, realistically, he's been offered the fight, he didn't take it, and you know, that's the one point they never want to address. You know, they don't want to address that. A lot of them are even lying about that. They're like, nah, that didn't even happen. You know, come on, man. You know, like I say, the Charlo thing, they're scraping at the bottom of the barrel of the worst arguments or the worst fighter they could bring up to say that Canelo's ducking anybody.
Look, and a lot of those points are boxing points that you're bringing up, and I would love to have those debates and those conversations, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, you know, at all, right? But there's some things that are just non-negotiable. They're non-starters. It's a non-starter to start with. Canelo is a fraud, and he's being protected, and there's a whole apparatus and system behind it all, because, you know, the Latino fighter just has it so easy. Like Chicano and Nopal and Chat. I don't know if you know this, but when a Hispanic fighter, as soon as they get out of their car, like there's somebody out there just rolling out the red carpet for them. You know what I mean? Like when they walk down the aisle at Walmart, they're throwing rose petals to their feet. And that's what people do for Latinos in this country. You know, everywhere we go, like people just stop what they're doing and they let us cut in line if we want at the grocery store. You know, I mean, it's just it's easy being like this idea, right? That we don't understand, you know, getting discriminated, that we don't understand struggle, that we don't understand any of those things is absolutely ridiculous. And there's only so many times I could hear it before I say, whoa, cut it out. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to keep it 100% boxing as I can. Like, you know my saying, right? What do I say at the end of every show? No, Paul.
Keep it boxing.
I say keep it boxing. I'm trying to get there. You know what I mean? But when we turn conversations, right, when I'm trying to talk about, you know, certain specific, about the facts, about a breakdown, about what I see in a fight, right? But then those conversations get toxic, right? And because let me tell you something toxic like oil, it doesn't mix with water. You know what I mean? It just doesn't mix. Okay. If you get acid and put it in water, it doesn't mix with it. Okay. And there's a reason for that. So when I'm trying to keep the H2O when it comes to boxing, right, and you inject toxic elements into it, it doesn't mix very well with it. And all it is a distraction, right, which is being, you know, pushed by some channels out there. We got Aki out there. We got Dante's Boxing Nation. I don't give a shit what anybody says, all right? Dante's Boxing Nation always uses Canelo as some catalyst or example, right, for what's wrong with boxing, like all the time, right? So, like, I've given this example a million times, right, about, when Tank Davis knocked out Leo Santa Cruz. I gave Tank Davis all the credit in the world, right? Everybody could have just said, hey, good win for Tank and moved on, right? Keep it moving. What's next for Tank, right? Should he fight should he fight Teofimo Lopez? Should he fight, Devin Haney? Let's talk about that. But no, instead, he wanted to make it about how nobody's going to give Tank Davis his credit, like everybody was giving, Canelo credit for the knockout of Khan. He used that as an example. But come on, like nobody thought that. Like this idea, very few people were clamoring and out in the streets, giving all this credit to Canelo for that. That is a narrative that he pushed and he just flat out made up on the spot to insinuate that the light-skinned Latino fighter just got more credit for his knockout win than Tank Davis is going to get. Like that's basically what he did. And that's the type of shit we got to keep hearing. Like, oh, the Canelo fights, they're fake, right? Canelo's doing everything, by the way. He's throwing the fights. He's juicing. He's not giving his opponents enough time to prepare. I mean, like, how could he do all those things, right? Like, if they're going to throw the fight, Chicano, does it matter if they had enough time to prepare? Or if does Canelo have to juice if they're going to throw the fight?
Of course not. It seems like a whole lot of extra effort to me. That makes absolutely no sense.
Right. And again, with no proof. I mean, it's just constant, like, no. We're not going to give Canelo any credit. We don't give a fuck if Mexican fight fans are proud of Canelo Alvarez. Don't be proud of him. He's a fake. He's a fraud. That's the message you're giving Mexican fight fans and Latino fight fans. And you wanted to just take it like a baby sitting in a damn chair, okay, with his mama putting the fucking food down his throat. Nah. How about nah? How about no? How about that? How about no? How about it's not going to work that way?
Yeah, man, it's not going to happen, dude. Especially, like, dude, Canelo is one of the best fighters of his generation. And people want us to feel like ashamed for rooting for him for some reason. The Latinos can root for Canelo. It's never been a problem. You guys have just been more vocal about it being a problem, but it's not. It's never been a problem. So, I wouldn't mind backtracking and having everything be cool. Like, I personally don't think that you could point to any instances where the problem's on our side, dude. Like, hey, man, we're loving. Everybody's always been welcome here to chat. You know what I'm saying? Like, there doesn't need to be so much attention here on YouTube about this kind of stuff. Like, you guys could hate on Canelo. Like, it's okay to hate on Canelo, but try to be real, dude. Like, I've heard all kinds of outrageous shit. Like, I've actively seen people try to discredit his run at 154, actively. When the only person he lost to there, it was Floyd Mayweather. Okay, I've actually had conversations with people in other chats, and they try to tell me that, well, Canelo never faced a champion at 160. Like, these people are literally listening to it's not true at all, and it's like I don't even know what to say. Like, I'm flabbergasted, and part of me wants to, like, educate them, and yeah, I'm having a little bit of fun when I do. I'm like, okay, well, here's some facts, and they're like, oh, well, you just a Canelo lover. I'm like, okay, well, I mean, you're either brainwashed, or you want to be led that way, and you have people that are programming your head with hours of shit that's just simply not true. Like, I heard somebody else say, like, oh, Canelo's only fighting the mice of the division. He's not fighting the monsters of the division. I'm like, okay, well, I don't know who could criticize besides maybe people who want him to go undisputed. How can anybody criticize his 160 run? He beat the lineal champion. Then he beat the next guy to see with Triple G, fought him twice. And then the next, after that, after 168, went back and fought the guy who was ranked in all, like, ESPN, BoxRec, wherever you want to look, a defending champion in Danny Jacobs, who was ranked after Triple G. He fought the absolute best in the division. He didn't necessarily, quote unquote, clear it out, like, up to everybody's standards, but he did very good work at that. And then people are just trying to disregard it and act like, oh, well, he didn't fight Charlo, who's ranked what was his highest ranking at the time when Canelo was there? It couldn't have been higher than 4. The guy's never done anything in the division. All he does is fight these middle-aged dudes who haven't accomplished anything. His best win is Derevyanchenko, dude. You guys got to wake up. Derevyanchenko has already been beaten by 2 other champions. Like, you guys have to have a little bit of perspective at least. In fact, you should consider having some appreciation towards Canelo Alvarez, because if everybody was making moves and facing, even if they were like, oh, these old champions, if somebody was going around, like, clearing up divisions the way he does, we would actually see people have to clash with each other. But instead we see, Caleb Plant fighting Caleb Truax. We hear about these rumors of, possibly Benavidez fighting in March and Charlo fighting in March. Does anybody say, hey, we need to see these two together? No, they got a blank check to do whatever they want. And that's another thing that irritates me too. Like, a lot of people are already pissed off about Canelo Alvarez possibly fighting in February against Yildirim. It's like, okay, well, I know that in your head, and you all know this too, no matter what you thought in your head, well, Canelo's going to be fighting in May next. Everybody knows that most premier fighters fight twice a year. So if he, fights 3 times a year, 4 times in actual 12 months to take care of one mandatory, I don't know what everybody's crying about. He's still on track to fight as often, if not more often, than he already does. And he's taking care of what everybody said was like the biggest thing in the world. Undisputed. It's the greatest whole wide weight thing in the world. Well, he's going to do it. So maybe people should stop their complaining.
There you go. You want to add anything, Paul?
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like it's time to switch the goalposts, though. Because people are, on the jock about getting undisputed, whether it's you beat one guy or two for, to get all 4 belts. You know what I mean? Quick way to undisputed, but whatever. Just reaching there is the top thing to do these days. But as soon as Canelo does it, they're probably going to say, hey, well, those guys weren't real, his look at the level of competition, They're going to switch it to a different argument. Is if he does this, he's damn. If he does that, he's damn. And they keep moving the goalpost. And we know what time it is, man. We know what time it is as far as Canelo Alvarez. He's been getting hated on for years and years. And that's why, some of us had to become fans, not necessarily, because we were fans of him at the beginning. No, because, we just, some of us thought he was kind of just like an average fighter. But when you start seeing the amazing amount of hate a person gets, you start looking at it and why are they hating on this dude for? You know what I mean? That type of thing. Some people do it because they're racist against Mexicans. Others do it because they have some kind of issue with his complexion. Others do. Everybody has some kind of personal issue with Canelo, and it's not really about his boxing. I've discovered over the years that it's the people that hate on Canelo, they got some personal thing, with him. They got some kind of personal issue, and yeah,
some of them, yeah. Some people that hate Canelo, they just have a personal vendetta against the guy. Yes, I mean, like, if we keep it real, that's what it is. Okay, and all I have to see is your pattern of behavior. That's it. Because there is, and even if I personally can have a disagreement with Nopal and Chicano or vice versa, whatever, right? About what valid criticisms there is about Canelo, because I do believe there is some, right? All right. But the reality is, at some point, there's some people that have these non-starters, right? If you start with the guy is a fraud and a disgrace, and I've seen whole streams about it, right? I seen whole streams about it. So let's not act like it's not a thing, right? And then the other response is, hey, just don't listen to it. Let it be. No, because, when you allow toxic shit, like if you don't clean up toxic shit, then you're going to be surrounded by toxic shit. Okay? Like, it has to be known. Like, Latinos need to speak out and just let people know how we feel about shit. You know what I mean? Like, that's just the way it is. And then that way okay? Because if we don't tell you, right, you can always say, hey, well, you never said anything, right? And things don't even have to go far in our reality. They just don't. Because on this channel, and plenty of people could vouch for me, look, I can't control what individuals say, right? I'm all about free speech, so it is what it is. But I can control what individuals say. I could just control what I say, right? And I could just be responsible for what I say, right? Everyone from any hashtag, from any background, from anything is welcome to my streams and my channels and my chat, okay? And everybody with a wrench knows they're not here to just censor people. Now, what I don't allow is blatant trolling, okay? I'm not a fan of trolling because it's not productive to anything, okay? I don't allow that, and I don't allow blatant disrespect. Okay, you know, towards me, especially because I'm the host. Okay, or people on the panel. That's what I don't allow. All right, I can't control whatever anybody says. But if we're going to have real conversations about anything, we need to listen to each other. But that includes, us Hispanics. Like, you got to let us speak for us. You know what I mean? Like nobody could speak for us. Like, we have our own kind of, our own mind and our own perspective. But here's what I want to say. What do you guys make of, I feel anyway, like, people think because Canelo has this popularity and he's pushed as even though he's been with the Zone lately, but he was like that pay-per-view star before he went to the Zone, and I believe he went back to pay-per-view, he would be the pay-per-view star again of the active boxers in boxing. But before the pandemic, you would go to, you would see crowds for Canelo and cheering for Canelo, right, dude? This is not like, these are all like fucking Mexicans in the crowd. Like 90% of people there are Mexican fight fans showing up to support Canelo. All right. If you think, all right, that white America is in the stands chanting "Sí se puede" and singing "Cielito Lindo," I don't know what to tell you. Okay. Like, the support from Canelo, the vast majority of it, the core of it, is from the Mexican people. This is not a dude that was handpicked by the powers to be and all that, right? His support has been organic, and it's been there since he was a teenager in Mexico, right? And it's translated. And you could tell me all day, oh, it's because he was on the undercard of Mayweather fights. A lot of dudes are on the undercards of big name fighters and never go anywhere, right? A lot of dudes. All right. So that's not what makes you a pay-per-view star, right? Canelo Alvarez became a star, right, for a multitude of reasons, but the number one reason is because he's good. The number one reason is because he's the real deal, all right? That's why he's a star today, all right? He's not getting this preferred treatment people are talking about. He just isn't, all right? If that was true, he would be fighting lower level of opposition than some of the favorite fighters you guys got. But he's not. All right. But anyway, what do you guys make about the support Canelo gets? And what do you think some of the misunderstandings people have about that support? Because they seem to believe that it's like given to him or some shit like that.
Man, I totally agree. I was one of the guys that hated on Canelo initially. Like, when I first watched him, like, I didn't like the hype that he was getting. And my time frame's kind of around the same as G-Funk's. Like, I was not liking him up until I was calling for him to fight Trout back in the day. Trout, keep in mind, one of those guys at 154 that a lot of people are trying to act like now wasn't a big deal. The other day, I publicly heard somebody ask somebody like, "Oh, well, when did what did Canelo ever do to earn a Mayweather fight?" I'm like, okay, well, you obviously haven't been watching that long if you can't answer that question. Everybody wanted that Trout fight, man, and he went in there and he won legitimately. Although some people think it was close, and if you can, that's fine too. But my main point is that, like, Canelo did have some hype with a certain fan group in Mexico, but he also earned a lot of hype, dude. Like, I saw him take on the fights that I wanted to see in the time frame, and he's been succeeding. His only loss, at least officially, I know he's had some close ones, his only loss is to Floyd Mayweather, right? And we could talk about these other great fights from different eras. Like, we're starting to break up Canelo's career into like segments where when we go Trout, we understand the dynamics of what was going on when he fought Trout. When we say Laura, it's the same thing. Like, and that was like a long time ago. And we could look up to like recent examples now. Like, he didn't fight Triple G all that long ago, y'all. Like, that was the fight that we were all salivating for. Didn't we all wait 2 years? And didn't we all want Canelo versus Triple G? Nobody was talking about Jermall Charlo. He's been actively fighting the best people in the divisions that we wanted him to see. If you have a guy who's coming up and behind and has a slowed down career, that's not Canelo's fault. Canelo is the A side. He's going to move how he wants to move in the weight classes he wants to. Like, he doesn't answer to anybody. He's shown why he's actually, a lot of people have gained a lot of respect. Like, you can't answer that question. Well, who's been doing more? You can't answer it besides Pacquiao, who has a better resume. Like, he's been accomplishing everything. And if you don't like him, hey, man, that's your thing. But, I'm not going to sit here and feel ashamed. And it's like what Nopal was saying, man. Like, we decided to go, okay, yeah, you know what? We do like Canelo. Like, what of it? Like, what's the problem? Like, he's better than your fighter. Like, you guys should listen around to all these people who are agreeing that Canelo's going to run the tables right now, like at 168. Like, you know, you guys are getting a little bit twisted. Like, you guys are acting like Canelo's like hiding and that, you know, he doesn't want to get in the ring. Like, Canelo, he's chingon. You know what I'm saying? Like, he'll go in there and whip some ass, and he's at his peak. Like, I say line them all up. But if you think your fighter deserves to be at the front of the line, well, you're going to have to give me a solid argument for it, because I haven't heard anything direct where I think there is a clear fighter. Like, Canelo is the ultimate A side. There is no clear opponent to see. There is no mega fight that could possibly be made, in my opinion, outside of possibly an Errol Spence fight if that develops. But I know a lot of people aren't hot on that. I think it's a possibility in a couple of years, but that's a whole nother subject. My main point is that, you know, if you like Canelo, that's fine. If you don't like him, that's fine. But, you know, try to, you know, especially if you're going to spend all this time on YouTube, like listening to it or talking about it, like try to be real, man. Like, don't brainwash people, you know, and if you're going to say things like, you know, try to back it up somehow. Like, we don't come out here with these crazy allegations. And another thing I have to say is that, you know, I love when Canelo fights, like, you know, a top black fighter. It's like Mayweather said, you know, when you get a Latino and a black, you know, those two have been dominating the sport for years. So, you know, you always get your best events when you throw the two together. And I agree, man. I love hot fights, man. And I love talking about them. Like, you know, there's no tension on this side, man. Like, HCP's been cool, y'all, you know, so like, you know, we hope you guys all come back, you know, and this is the message that we wanted to spread is like, as Mexicans, because, you know, I felt like, you know, as Latinos and Latinos in general, like, I felt like that we weren't properly represented. I've also heard the allegation that, you know, oh, you know, the reason those fight so well is because, you know, oh, you know, we want to see the black guy get beat up on, and it's vice versa. Like, you know, I've never ever had a house party where that was what was going on. Like, you know, we just want to see the good fights. And yeah, you know, like there is a little bit of tension because, you know, black fighters are very good. You know, that's what makes those fights damn good, you know, and I want to enjoy that, not feel this tension about it.
Yeah, like nobody wants to have these uncomfortable tensions and you know, because once, let me tell you something, man. Like my main objective on here is to talk boxing. You know what I mean? That's my main objective, right? And I want to let everybody know right now, okay? Because I've been on here for a while, on and off, but I've been on here for a while, okay? And I've been, for the last year and a half, I've been very active on here, okay? And here's what I could tell you, right? What I could honestly tell you, all right? And this is not me. This is not hyperbole. This is not an exaggeration. And I think people need to listen really closely to what I'm going to say, all right? The hate for Teofimo Lopez is over the top. And it's like nothing I've seen like in a long time. The expectations for this guy with 15 fights is unbelievable to me. All right? Now, Teofimo Lopez is not Mexican. He's Honduran. But you know, the only thing that separated his people from ours is a line in the sand. You know what I mean? That's it. Like a border. But my point is, Teofimo Lopez, I mean, first of all, his win with Comey, that was a good win. People turned Comey into a bum like overnight, like people that picked Comey to beat him, and I have the receipts. Okay, cool. People picked him to lose to Lomachenko. Beats Lomachenko overnight. Oh, and that's another guy, by the way. Like overnight, they turned him into a bum overnight. You know, it's one thing to say you think Lomachenko's overrated. It's another thing to say he's a trash fighter. He's a really good fighter. Beat the shit out of you know, Walters with ease. You know, he was a little too big for Rigondeaux, but he outboxed Rigondeaux. He didn't really use his size against him, right? I mean, he had a lot of good wins on his resume. Okay, so anyway, my point is, from jump, before he even fought Lomachenko, he was already getting accused of ducking. Oh, he's a duck. He's going to duck. Watch. The guy's a duck. He's a duck. He's a duck. He's a fraud, right? I mean, immediately. So I'm a guy that keeps it consistent, right? I criticize Canelo, okay, for picking up a vacant WBC belt at 154 against Matthew Haddon on nobody in that division. All right? That's consistency. And I'm telling you, and I have the receipts for it. Devin Haney didn't beat anybody for that WBC strap. Okay? That's just the truth, right? It doesn't mean I don't want to see Haney versus Teofimo Lopez. Okay? What I'm trying to tell you is Stop acting like Teofimo Lopez has to fight him now. He can't even fight a mandatory in Cambozas. He's got to do it now. And if you don't do it now, you're ducking. Like, if you keep doing that, it's ridiculous. Okay? I'm sorry. It just is. He literally just won the fight against Lomachenko. He literally has the best resume at lightweight. And people, like, I don't see anybody accusing Tank of ducking Haney, and he wants to fight at lightweight, right? Why can't Haney and Tank fight each other? Why are the Tank Haney videos? Why is nobody accusing Tank of ducking, right? Why just steal? I mean, these are questions that, yes, Latinos ask themselves, right? Like, well, why do they keep attacking, like, our fighters? Like, well, what's going on here? You know? Why 10 videos a day? Why constant videos? Because let me just tell you this before I pass it on. Let me tell you guys this, all right? I don't have to watch other videos. You know why I told you I've been on here so long? People send me the screenshots. People send me screenshots of people saying we're the children of rape and shit like that. I got the receipts. People send me the screenshots with audios and videos. I don't need to look for shit. I got dozens of people that send me shit. All right? So I don't need to worry about it. Don't worry about, oh, please stop. You don't like it. Well, why do you keep watching? Why do you keep doing this? Because you have to be in the know. You got to know what's going on in the community you're in. Right? You got to know what's going on. Like, you can't just be walking around oblivious and acting like this shit isn't going on. Right? But even after all that, look, let me tell you something. If it ended at, oh, he's ducking Haney, okay, cool. That's how you feel, right? If that's all it was, cool. My issue is when it's over the top, right? When you start questioning if this guy's any good at all, even though he's already shown you that he's good, right? My issue isn't, oh, I have criticism about Canelo, yada, 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 right? No, because it doesn't stop there, right? It's the insinuations that he's a fraud, the insinuations that he ain't shit, the over-the-top shit. Like, honestly, if the over-the-top shit ended, a lot of this could easily get resolved. A lot of it. But it's just too much over-the-top shit. But go ahead, guys.
Oh, man, I agree. You know, and another thing I want to say is, dude, like, you know, there's nothing wrong with liking multiple fighters in a division, dude. Like, I like Jermall Charlo. I like both the Charlo brothers. You know, I like Jermell. If anybody that knows me, I give him a bunch of credit. And I'd like to think that I stay consistent. Like, I'm not a guy who's out here going like, oh, my God, he's got to go undisputed and fight Teixeira, or else, you know, he's got to chase him. He's got to get him no matter what. Undisputed is the greatest thing of all time. No, man, I think he's the king. Just like I think that Teofimo is the king at lightweight, man. And I have to tell you this, man, like, Teofimo Lopez took care of some good work at lightweight. And Lomachenko also took care of some good work. They were the top two in the division, no matter which way you slice it. And that was a fight that we all wanted to see, and we were all very excited about. That was one of the hottest fights that I think we've gotten post-COVID, man. You know, they both went in there, they did it. And Teofimo is extremely accomplished at 23. Look at what other 23-year-olds have done around his age, man. He's like way ahead of the pack, man. And, you know, we should be grateful to see somebody go in there and take all the challenges. And if he takes a second to maybe fulfill a mandatory or maybe get some money elsewhere, like, you just need to relax and not let this kind of stuff get to you, man. I'm serious. Like, I mean, you're supposed to like boxing. Like, relax and enjoy these fights. Like, we don't get the fights that we want often enough anyways. Like, don't find reasons to get mad about stuff. Like, want all fights. You know, like, I want to see Canelo fight the best. Like, I say line him up. I want to see every division. I want to see the undisputed heavyweight. I'm down to see Teofimo versus Haney, but I don't necessarily think that's even the best fight to be made. I mean, unless you want to see that undisputed, if it is the greatest thing of all time for you. But I mean, to me, his competition isn't there to say that he's the next guy to see as far as ranking goes, in my opinion. I think that you could make the argument that after next week, Ryan Garcia has a better resume at lightweight. There's a lot of good fights, but you know, if I don't see the fight that I want, I'm not going to sit here and get angry about it or listen to hours of somebody complaining about it. Like, you guys need to change your perspective, especially because we're not getting the fights that we want all the time. So, I mean, you know, you should look at boxing positively and be okay with liking multiple fighters in divisions, appreciating good work, appreciating who the best is in the division or who's number ranked. You should appreciate, you know, Latinos, appreciate all races. You know, like it's this is a sport that we all love together.
I agree with you, man. I agree with you. Go ahead, no, Paul.
Yeah, I mean, if you go back in, history in recent times, I mean, we've had a list of fighters that get hated on for stupid ass reasons, man. And even if you take the time, even a guy like Ryan Garcia, I mean, the dude's a little badass, bro. But nevertheless, our fighters somehow get hated on big time by other sides, of the boxing fans. And then the amazing part about that is our own people fall in line and somehow they get persuaded to hate on them too, So all I got to say about that is, don't be an idiot. Just take the time for yourself. See what the dude is, what our fighters are trying to do, what they're trying to accomplish, and give them the respect. Just like other fan bases, they'll do whatever it takes to protect their fighters, man, to protect their honor and shit like that. We don't got to be exactly like that, but at least, look at the effort that the other fan bases take to make sure that their fighters aren't getting hated on and stuff like that. And, at least try to use that as an example of, what we should do, kind of. We don't, like I said, we don't got to go to the extreme like other fan bases, but, at least do something. Don't just fall into that trap and start criticizing fighters unnecessarily, for things that other fighters aren't even, I mean, when you criticize a fighter, in my opinion, you always got to look and see what the other fighters in that weight class are doing. And then you can probably say, hey, okay, let's criticize this guy a little bit, but if one fighter's doing exactly the same thing as another, let's just criticize them both, and vice versa, just like that. Or, and then you're not going to go, the dumbest thing to me is how you going to be criticizing the dude that's setting the example, the one that is actually fighting the fights that he's supposed to take, and then you're going to turn around and get on your knees and suck the fighter off that isn't doing shit, that makes absolutely no sense to me.
It's what I want to bring up. So obviously we all know that, like, I don't know, we could say the same about like Colombians or, but Puerto Rican fight fans and Mexican fight fans specifically, right? In Nicaragua, they do support like Chocolatito and stuff, but what I'm trying to say is, right, Argentina, they support their fighters, but in the U.S., because there's a lot of Mexican Americans and stuff like that, right? And then Mexico's right south of the border. Puerto Ricans, right? They got the island, it's a territory of the U.S., so they're able to come here. And also, there's a lot of Puerto Ricans in New York and Florida, right? Obviously, at least the top name fighters, right? Like in this case, Canelo, he gets a lot of support, right? And because he gets this support from our people, like he does, right? It's obvious, right? He'll show up to a weigh-in, man, a roar of people roar for him, like if there is people there booing him, like they're going to get drowned out. You know what I mean? He dominates the support in the arena whenever he fights, etc. Right? And here's what I'm getting at. So the pay-per-view buys he gets from Latinos, the merchandise that they buy from him, all that, I think that helps him have leverage, and negotiate big purses and big deals like he did with the Zone and all that, right? Like he's able to get these big deals with the Zone. He's able to, make the money that he makes, right? Do you guys feel like that gets used against Canelo? Like, do you feel like people get the wrong sense of it? Like it almost feels like, hey, well, look, he has all this leverage. He should use it to make the fight I want, but what people don't realize is everyone wants something different from Canelo. The Gennady Golovkin fights want the trilogy. The Charlo fans want him to fight Charlo, right? You have people that want him to fight Plant. You have people that want him, the British guys that want him to fight a Billy Joe Saunders, right? Or what have you. Maybe not all of them. I'm just using an example, okay? You have some Mexicans out there that, he's got to fight Benavidez, so he can't. This isn't Dickstown, as I've been saying. He can't fight everybody in one night and make everybody happy. You know what I mean? But do you think there's like a misconception with the support he gets? And Chavez was the same way, by the way. Unfortunately, even Chavez Jr., right? Because he inherited his father's like stardom. But Chavez was very popular, had a lot of support. Don King loved him, right? When Tyson went to jail, I mean, Don King relished on having Chavez and promoting him on closed circuit, right? Our people's support help our fighters make a lot of money, get a lot of leverage, and that is the love. Like that's the love that you're seeing on television, right? So with all that said, I know that was a lot that I said, but do you think people get that misconstrued with, oh, he's the quote unquote chosen one of this great apparatus and system? You know what I mean? The powers that be handpicked Canelo to be in that spot. Do you think people get that twisted? Let's start with Chicano.
Well, if they want to, but I have to say, man, I agree. There is a misperception about the fan base that he has, dude. Like I can tell you, and it's been like this because I've been to Canelo fights. I've had a lot of good pay-per-view parties, but a lot of them happen to be on those, the Cinco de Mayo's, September dates, and Canelo's in a lot of them, man. And he's fan friendly and he's absolutely great for the sport. This one of the misperceptions that I noticed is that, like you said, that it might be a problem that Canelo's so popular. It's like, dude, we need popular boxers right now. Like, dude, the sport has been suffering. It's been suffering for a long time, dude. We've had a lot of people who don't move the needle at all. We need anybody and everybody who can move that needle, man. And Canelo and Mexicans, we're a pillar stone, period. Just like the blacks and the Puerto Ricans, there are certain cultures and countries that support this great sport that we all love, man. And we need them everywhere, man. Like when even in Britain, dude, like, I love Nopal and I were talking about this, dude. We like the support that the British people give their fighters and also the amount of respect that they give other fighters. They give a lot of respect to other fighters when they talk about all these fights coming up, what they've accomplished, where they're at. Like, they don't have all this like anger and aggression towards just like, just trying to undercut everything that these fighters do. So Canelo does get a lot of hate. It comes with the territory. But, if everybody was drawing like Canelo, like the sport would be in a better place. But we need those types of people. Canelo is somebody who brings the crowd. He also brings the casual crowd. Like, this last fight, people kind of found out about it last minute. But I had two friends who I know who don't watch any boxing who watched that fight on their own, man. And it's like we need those casual fans. And Canelo is the draw. He's the ultimate A-side, no matter who he faces. And so does he abuse that A-side privilege? I would say that, he could stand to abuse it some more, to be honest. I mean, like, a lot of these fighters, they want to get paid a lot more, and even though they're getting like what could possibly be more than like twice their all-time high payday, more than twice, they're still complaining. Some of these fighters don't like the offers, and it's because of the financial amount that they're getting, not because of anything else that we're hearing sometimes. But, Canelo, he's not this big villain. Like, he doesn't speak that much on his negotiations. Like, we've never heard him talk, and a lot of people use that opportunity to kind of spin things. Like when he and Oscar De La Hoya made that offer to Jamal Charlo, like, they didn't sit there and continue to harp on this idea that like, oh my God, this whole Charlo fight wasn't made. At the time, besides, outside of YouTube, Jamal Charlo is just another guy with a belt. Like he wasn't really in a position to have that be the best fight anyways. We ended up getting the Jacobs fight, which in my opinion was an improvement towards things like, legacy and accomplishments when you look at a resume and what somebody's actually accomplished. But I do think that Jamal Charlo could be a good fight, but like he doesn't necessarily like nobody deserves that fight, And so if Canelo decides to use A-side leverage and go somewhere, like it's not like he's necessarily ducking your fighter. If there was a clear guide that was to be seen, we would all agree on it, man. But the fact is we don't, And I just think that he doesn't abuse his A-side as much as everybody thinks, And if it does frustrate you, man, like there's a whole lot of other things that could be going on that should frustrate you. For example, like he's not tying up everybody. All these other fighters could fight each other. You see Billy Joe Saunders and even Andrade was just saying like, hey, well, Canelo can't fight somebody. I'm trying to get that Billy Joe Saunders fight. And this is after Canelo says like, hey, I want to go undisputed at 168. You got Plant and Benavidez who never faced each other, dude. There's absolutely zero reason why we haven't seen that fight. Like, how come people aren't angry about that one? There's a lot of little examples. Like, if Jamal Charlo moves up to 168, like, why can't we throw him in with Benavidez? Like, why can't we entertain these fights? Like, everybody else just, gets a pass, and we don't have to talk about what they should be doing next. But with Canelo, what they need to be doing next, and it's what you want, But there's no clear guy to see. And I think that, people need to have a little bit of perspective. And if they don't, like I said, like, at least don't let, people brainwash you and have you spend hours of time, telling you things that simply aren't true, man. Like, I think you should go out, breathe some fresh air. You know what I'm saying? Watch some old school fights. Take a look at the resume. Take a look at where the rankings were at the time. Like, you can figure this stuff out by yourself. Like, I don't know what the benefit is of getting all riled up at Canelo. He's not the problem. Like, a lot of people think that Canelo's a problem, but there's a lot of problems in boxing in general. So if you're mad at Canelo, well, maybe you're just mad at what the A side represents. And yeah, I get that too. But a lot of this stuff, like, favoritism in judging, a lot of things, that comes in, that's in boxing. Boxing's corrupt by nature, dude. Like, you guys need to have a little perspective in general. Like, there's always going to be somebody in that A side, cash cow, I call the shots position. That's just how it's always been.
That's how it's always been, man. And I got to tell you, though, like, specifically with the Mexican fighter, Chicano, is especially the stars, right? They've never needed, right? Like Canelo has, kind of that comfort of like, I'm always going to have the support of the Mexican people no matter what. You know what I mean? Because look, when he fights, people can say what they want. They can give me their anecdotal stories all they want, but at the end of the day, they'll admit that when Canelo fights, it's a big event. You know what I mean? When Canelo fights, like 20 million people plus watch his fights in Mexico. You know what I mean? So that's a big deal. The same thing when Chavez fought. Like, a lot of the popularity that Mexican fighters have, right? It's irrelevant to what the American press or writers write about or anything, because they have that backing from our people, like, no matter what, right? And the reason I'm mentioning that is because everybody's got to, like, understand that even with all that, Mexican fight fans, we still love all boxing. You know what I mean? We still like, if you get Marquez, I mean, Marquez has Crawford #1 pound for pound. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of Latino fight fans do, and they'll make an argument for that. So it's not like we're in, like, this idea that we can't, give props to other fighters is absolutely ridiculous. Like, in Mexico, they love the Japanese fighters a lot. Okay, African American fighters, the European fighters. We respect all types of fighters. You know what I mean? Because the Mexican nation is a big nation in terms of boxing. A lot of boxers go fight over there. A lot of the women boxers in the lower weight classes go fight over there. It's a powerhouse in boxing. But no, Paul, can you give me some thoughts, man? Do you think that Canelo's popularity, people misconstrue that and they think it's just like he's just this hand-picked dude that the powers that be decided is going to be the star?
Yeah. I wanted to speak specifically on something that we always hear about him. We always hear how he's this big diva that has to have all his ways, and I mean, we literally just got out of having the two biggest divas, that they've basically kind of retired. You know what I mean? And I'm not talking about Pacquiao. I'm probably talking about Mayweather. So Mayweather left the worst example of how you treat your opponent ever in the history of boxing. Whether it was picking his gloves or a catch weight, whatever. And those paydays weren't big at all. Let me just say. And when you look at Canelo's career, he's never been like that. Let me just start off with the example. When he fought Baldomir came in overweight, and there was a pretty hefty penalty for, coming in overweight. Nevertheless, Canelo waived it and let him get his money. He didn't say, "Hey, I'm going to take that money from him." He said, "Nah, you can keep that. We're not interested in that. We just want to win the fight." And then you move that up to when he was already popular. I mean, Mayweather only paid him like $2 or $3 million to fight that fight, and I don't think he got any kind of pay-per-view split off of that. And not to mention to that moment, that pay-per-view itself sold more than that was one of the highest selling pay-per-view after Oscar De La Hoya and Mayweather. So Mayweather made about $100 million off of Canelo, and working his way up. You see, when he fought Lara, he didn't have to pay Lara. They both made about the same amount. I think Canelo made 1.5 million, and they paid Lara 1 million. That was his biggest payday. The dude historically has been very light A side when it comes to trying to take advantage of his opponents. And I hear people mentioning the catch weight a lot. I mean, that was only a pound, and it was for those fights that weren't, weren't for a belt or anything like that. What was it, like 3 fights? And then, with the Khan thing, that benefited Khan. He paid Khan good money to step in there. And, all these guys, historically, they're getting some good-ass paydays. So, Canelo's not your typical A-side fighter, bro. I would call him a light A-side. He's been very generous with his purse splits that he gives people. Even when he fought Cotto, he only took about 30% of the purse. He let Cotto get about 70% of everything. Cotto picked the catch weight, and then, as we heard later, there was a rehydration clause on that. So even there, people were saying, oh, Canelo weighed about 190. Of course not, knowing that there was a rehydration clause. The dude came in light, and, people have always said that he's a diva, which, dude, he's setting a good example, really, on how you treat your opponent. And, how he's setting a real respectable example, in my opinion.
Look, I mean, Kovalev got a really good payday, but you know what people did instead? Saying, man, Canelo, he could have gotten more money, but, instead of saying, man, Canelo, he really pays his opponents very well. You know what they did instead? Instead, they used that against Canelo. They said, oh, he's paying him a lot of money. He must bribe them to lose. Canelo's buying the belt at 175 pounds is what he's doing, right? That's what was done instead. That's like over-the-top bullshit. I'm sorry. Okay? That's what that is at the end of the day, right? Canelo could have literally have been fighting UFC fighters, boxing them, and making $35 million because the Zone thought those were premier fights. And Canelo said, nah, bro, like I want out of this bullshit. I want out of this contract. I want to fight champions. And what did he do as soon as he got out of that contract, Chicano? Who did he fight?
He went and fought Callum Smith, the number 1 ranked 168-pounder, Ring Magazine champion.
And that's like a last minute, like I need an opponent, ASAP opponent. You know what I mean? That's what that was. It was, I need somebody to fight me. Caleb Plant's running. Run, Plant. Run. Right? Well, we need a meme of Plant running like Forrest Gump and Canelo in the truck, like going after him. But
oh yeah.
We need that for sure. But that's what happened there, man. Look, at the end of I already know that, this type of shit makes a lot of people kind of uncomfortable. By the way, Joe Host, thank you for that super chat earlier, bro. I forgot to mention that. Thank you for that. But I get it. You know what I mean? But people's first impression, let me say this and tell me if you guys agree with this. People need to stop listening to respond, and they need to start listening to understand. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, dude, it makes sense, especially, if they want to reach a middle ground, man. I don't see any reason why we can't, dude. We all love this sport, dude. And, if any fighter attains greatness, like, it's great for the sport and our love of the sport in general. Like, everything succeeds when fighters do well and get attraction from the rest of the world. So I don't think there's any reason why we can't start giving credit everywhere. Like, we should start thinking differently. And we're ready to continue being the way that we are. If other people want to come on back, or speak to us about what our opinions are, man, I'd love to hear it, dude. Because I got nothing but open arms, man, towards anybody out there who loves the sport. If you like your specific fighters, that's cool, man. Like, let's talk about it, but like, we got to keep some things in line. Like, if we did a good job of praising fighters who were the most successful, and that happened from the top down, like, we would have more respect in general and more appreciation instead of being angry all the time. Like, I was watching this De La Hoya Vargas fight, and Emmanuel Stewart, they thought of their fighters as titans, and they were talking about De La Hoya, who'd been a year removed from the ring, worth about $100 million, and he was sitting there going like, how does this guy keep the hunger? Like, and they were just really just impressed with how he was able to get in the ring and do what he does still, even though he's worth $100 million. It's like, well, Canelo's worth over $140 million, and so, I mean, that's about, if you want to account for inflation, that might be the same, give or take, but Canelo's still hungry and he's still attaining things. Like, when a fighter, we all take it for granted, but when a fighter goes in and fights Canelo, that's absolutely like the biggest legacy fight that fighter could possibly have. Canelo has accomplished so much and he's only lost once. Like, that is huge, and that's something that we all take for granted. So, if you think about it, Canelo really could be leveraging his position a whole hell of a lot more. And he's only 30, you guys. He's only 30, and he's at his peak. Like, let's start appreciating good fighters. Like, hey, like, if you like Canelo or don't like Canelo, like, can you deny at all that he's an excellent boxer? His skill is incredible, and he's somebody who has heart, and he's somebody who's willing to go toe to toe. Like, he has a fan-friendly style, and that also benefits the sport. There's just a little bit of perspective that I wanted to share.
Yeah, man. Look, the verbiage and the way people talk about fighters nowadays definitely is different, right, than it was 10 years ago, right? On all, like, social media is not that old, but I know social media is a big reason why that changed, right? But YouTubers used to talk differently about fighters, man, with a bigger appreciation for what they do, what they bring, the sacrifices they make to go in that ring. You know what I mean? It just used to be a lot different.
Right.
And that's changed in a lot of ways, even with me. I mean, it's everyone kind of gets influenced by downplaying what these guys do in the ring at the end of the day. And for Canelo to be doing this against top opposition, regardless of what your opinion is, the facts are these guys are champions that he's beating. You know what I mean? Like, that's just a period. And he wants to unify. He wants to become undisputed. What else do you want from the guy? It might not be what you want personally, but can you at least acknowledge that it's a good thing? And can you at least give me examples of somebody who's doing better things? Because if you can't do that, then we're really not going to go anywhere with it. You know what I mean? What we're going to do now is kind of go, give our closing statements here. No, Paul, give us some closing statements, brother. While No Paul comes back, how about you, Chicano? Go ahead.
Yeah, man, I just want to say, dude, everyone continues to be well, and I don't mean to speak for D-Style, but, everyone's welcome here at HCP, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah, dude, we love everybody here. Come on and kick it with us, dude. Mexicans, Latinos, everybody, dude. Like, we're here to enjoy boxing, man. And if you are a boxing fan, but you find yourself being more angry about situations that are out of your control, you got to remember that these fights take months to build, bro. Like, don't take all this time being angry about things that don't happen. Try to enjoy the limited product that we have now. We're not getting the best fights that we want already, dude. So, don't just keep heaping it on to yourself and getting all this hate. Like, you got to relax and not take things so seriously, man. This is just boxing, and this sport should be here for everybody's enjoyment.
Absolutely, man. And I want to say, man, look, when it comes to, like, before I go to No Paul, something I forgot to mention, and I hate to use the guy as an example again, and I'm probably not going to mention him again after this, but Dante's Boxing Nation did a video saying, "Oh, ESPN, they're at it again, guys. They're trying to push Canelo as a number one pound for pound, guys. Here goes ESPN again, guys." Right? Now, is having Canelo number one pound for pound really that big of a deal? Like, is it that controversial, really? But ESPN actually has Crawford number one pound for pound, not Canelo. Like, if there was ever fake news, like, that would literally be the definition of it, right? Because they have Crawford number one pound for pound. Like, I remember when I saw that title, right? And everyone kind of watches everybody. So let's just cut the nonsense of, like, oh, what are you watching, right? But I went and I looked and I'm like, wait a minute. Crawford's number one pound for pound. What the fuck is he talking about? You know what I mean? But, those little things, those little uncomfortable insinuations, like, well, we know what it is with Canelo, right, guys? Like, no, I don't. Well, why did you tell me? I think he's a really skilled fighter. How about that, guys? Okay? But give us some final thoughts, Paul.
Yeah, I see what it is with Dante. He watched the fight for his own damn self, and he came to that conclusion, right? He was like, oh, man, ESPN's going to put Canelo number one pound for pound now. So he jumped the gun a little bit, right? Little did he know that, they were going to keep Crawford on there. But, I mean, we've been watching this guy for years, so we know how he thinks. And he's not the only one that thinks that way. There's a lot of other fan bases that, they think the same way, and they don't mind being that biased. But, I just wanted to tell the audience that, us on this side, HCP, we're making an active effort to not be biased like that. Sure, we're going to try to back up our fighters a little bit here and there, but, when when somebody else wins, we're not gonna downplay those wins or anything like that. We're giving everybody the credit that they deserve, and everybody's welcome here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to address what Skinny Kenny said. Look, even in HCP, we don't like agree in unison about everything. I have a slight disagreement with G Funky with the Devin Haney thing, right? And he could speak for himself, but I do think Haney has done things to position himself to fight for the belt, and he was supposed to get the shot against Campbell, right? But they gave it to Loma instead, and then the WBC fucked everything up with the franchise thing, okay? The anger and you being upset and angry should be directed at the WBC and Mauricio Suleiman, not at Teofimo Lopez, who had nothing to do with any of that, okay? And fought, Lomachenko and beat Lomachenko, right? So I'm not going to say Haney's done nothing. He did position himself to get there, right? But the only reason I point this out, because even here, like whether it's myself and Chicano, myself and Nopal, even us have disagreements amongst ourselves about certain things, right? Even amongst Latinos, we have debates whether, Teofimo really is technically, undisputed by definition, right? Like even amongst us. So I just think people need to understand that it's okay to disagree. It's okay to have disagreements, right? What's not okay, right, is to attack fighters just for the sake of attacking them with agendas and narratives. That's what's not okay, all right? And that's just the way I feel about that, okay? And with that said, those are my final thoughts. I want to thank Chicano Prophet for coming on, Nopal for taking their time. The most precious thing anybody can give you is their time, because time is money and time is precious. Thank you guys for coming on, guys.
Oh, thank you, D-Style.
Thanks, man. It was fun.
Appreciate that. Shouts out to the whole HCP crew, our boy G Funky, soon to come back. Everybody else in the chat.
Yeah, absolutely. This is D-Style Boxing. Keep it boxing, guys. We're out of here. Peace.
Peace.